dry van freight through the Midwest for 6 years, mostly nights, mostly interstate. Nothing about the job surprises me anymore. Or it didn't, until the night outside Salina. I got flagged down about 2 miles past the way station. Not by the state, not by a real inspection light bar. Just a pickup truck, parked half on the shoulder, hazards blinking, and a man standing behind it waving a flashlight in slow circles. He had a reflective vest. He had a clipboard. He had everything you'd expect except a badge I could actually see. I pulled over because that's what you do. You pull over for a man with a vest and a clipboard on the side of the interstate at 1 in the morning. Because the alternative is worse if he's real. He walked up slow, tapped my mirror twice like he'd done it 100 times before. Told me it was a random compliance check, asked for my logbook, my bill of lading, my ELD printout. Nothing unusual in the questions. But he never once wrote anything down. The clipboard stayed under his arm the entire time. I've been through maybe 30 real inspections in 6 years. Every single one, the inspector writes something. A checkbox, a note, a signature, something. This man held that clipboard like a prop, like it was there for me to see rather than for him to use, and once I noticed it, I couldn't stop noticing it. Then he asked something no inspector has ever asked me. He asked what was in the trailer. Specifically, not generally. Not what's your freight class, but how many pallets, and where in the trailer are they loaded? That's not a question. That's a question for someone who wants to know where to stand once they're inside. I told him I'd need to see his ID before I answered anything else. He smiled, said sure, patted his jacket pocket like he was looking for it, and then his radio crackled, except it wasn't a radio squelch. It was a voice, low, coming through an earpiece I hadn't noticed before, half a second before he touched his ear. Someone else was talking to him. Someone else was watching this happen in real time. He told me to hang tight, walked back toward his pickup, and made a call. I could see his silhouette through the back window, phone up, gesturing at my trailer, then gesturing at me, then going still for a few seconds like he was listening to something he didn't like. My phone had 1 bar out here. Calling it in over a man in a vest felt insane in the moment, and also felt like something I'd regret not doing if this went worse. I put my hand on the door lock instead. Quiet, slow. That's when I put my truck in gear. I didn't wait for permission. I didn't wait for an explanation. I pulled back onto 70, doing maybe 15 miles an hour before I even hit the on-ramp, watching that pickup's hazards shrink in my mirror. He didn't chase me. That's the part that still gets me. A man impersonating an inspector caught mid-conversation with someone off-site, and he just let me go. Like the truck wasn't the point. Like I wasn't supposed to be the one who got stopped that night, and he was deciding in real time whether to correct the mistake. I called it into dispatch, then into the actual state patrol post outside Salina. They had no record of any compliance check scheduled on that stretch. No unit in that area. They asked me to describe the vest, the clipboard, the vehicle. I gave them everything I had, which wasn't much, because it was dark and I was more interested in getting my rig moving again than memorizing a stranger's face. 2 weeks later, I mentioned it to another driver at a pilot outside Topeka, half expecting him to tell me I'd overreacted. Instead, his face went flat. He said a friend of his had been stopped the same way, same stretch of road, 3 months earlier, hauling a load of consumer electronics. Different vest, same clipboard that never got written on, different questions about pallet placement. His friend didn't get away as clean. Somebody got into that trailer before he made it to his delivery. Nothing violent happened to him directly. He just found the seal broken at his next stop. 4 pallets short, and a stop he swears he never made, sitting right there on his own eld log like he'd made it himself. I don't stop for flashlights on that stretch of 70 anymore. Not for anyone. Not for a vest, not for a badge I can't verify twice over the phone first. I take the long way through Salina now, way station or not, and I still don't know who was on the other end of that earpiece, or what he was waiting to hear before he decided to let me drive away, and some nights on that stretch I catch myself checking the shoulder for hazard lights before I even need to. Run reefer loads out of a produce yard in the Central Valley, mostly citrus and lettuce. Mostly the same route to distribution centers in Nevada and Arizona. 3 months ago, I picked up a load with a seal number that didn't match my paperwork by a single digit, and I almost didn't catch it. Seal numbers aren't something you memorize. You just check that the one on the trailer matches the one on the bill of lading, snap a photo, move on. This one was close enough that I almost signed off without a second look. 6 characters. 1 transposed near the end. If I hadn't been double-checking because the shipping office had called twice that morning to confirm the load number, I never would have noticed. I called the shipping office to report the mismatch. The woman who answered told me she hadn't called me twice that morning. She'd called me once. Somebody else had made the second call, using the same yard's caller ID, or something close enough to fool my phone. I sat in the cab for a minute just looking at that seal. A seal number is a small thing to build a fear around. It's a strip of numbered plastic, cheap, disposable, meant to prove nobody opened the trailer between 2 points. But the only reason it works is that everybody trusts it's hard to fake convincingly. Standing there matching 6 characters against a printed sheet, 1 digit off, I understood for the first time that trusting a number that small was never really security. It was just habit. The load was already hooked, already backed into position, and the paperwork looked otherwise clean. Same consignee, same delivery window, same weight. Everything matched except that 1 digit, and a phone call that supposedly never happened. I drove it anyway, because I didn't have proof of anything yet, just a bad feeling and a mismatched number, and dispatch doesn't pay you to sit in a yard chasing a feeling. But I stopped checking my mirrors like normal that whole run. I checked them like someone might actually be behind me, because now I wasn't sure who else knew what was on that trailer, or why. Nothing happened on the drive to the first way station. Nothing happened at the truck stop outside Kingman, where I grabbed coffee and did a walk around. The seal was intact. The trailer doors were exactly like I left them. Somewhere past Barstow, I started replaying every stop I'd made that week. Every fuel island, every truck stop lot where I'd parked overnight with the trailer unattended for 6-7 hours at a stretch. Anyone could have walked past. Anyone could have looked at a seal number and copied it wrong on purpose, or right on purpose, and I'd have no way of knowing which. It happened at the delivery. The receiving manager at the distribution center checked the seal against his paperwork, and his face changed the same way mine had. His number matched the original bill of lading. Mine, the one physically on the trailer, still had that 1 transposed digit. 2 different documents, 2 different seal numbers, both looking legitimate, both pointing at the same load. He asked me who issued my paperwork. I told him the shipping office, same as always. He made a call, came back, and told me the shipping office had no record of reissuing any documentation on this load. Somebody had generated a second, nearly identical bill of lading with a nearly identical seal number and gotten it into my hands somewhere between pickup and departure. We broke the seal together, under camera, with 2 other employees as witnesses. The load matched the manifest. Nothing missing, nothing added. At least nothing either of us could identify by weight or count. but somebody had gone to the trouble of forging paperwork close enough to pass a driver's glance, matched to a seal number close enough to pass a fast check, for a load that arrived completely intact, which means either they lost their chance to intercept it somewhere along the route, or the load itself was never the target. Something else was. I think about that more than I want to. About who has access to a shipping office's letterhead, or close enough to it, and who can generate a fake seal number precise enough to survive a driver's first inspection. Someone who's done this before. Someone testing whether it works, on my load, on my route, using a shipping office's own name to get past me without ever showing their face. I still haul out of that yard. I check every seal number twice now, against 2 separate documents, before I ever pull onto the highway. And I never answer a second confirmation call from dispatch without calling the office back myself, on a number I already have saved, because I know now that a voice on the phone can sound exactly like it's supposed to, right up until it isn't. And by then, you've already handed over exactly what they were asking for, without ever seeing their face or hearing them ask twice. I've driven long-haul flatbed for 11 years, and I know how to read a rest area. Which trucks belong, which don't, who's sleeping, and who's watching. That instinct is the only reason I'm telling this story instead of just wondering about it. It started at a rest stop off I-40 in New Mexico. Nothing dramatic. Just a dark sedan parked at the far end of the lot, engine off, one silhouette in the driver's seat, facing my truck instead of the highway. People sit in rest areas all the time. People sleep, people wait, people stare at nothing. I didn't think much of it until I saw the same car 4 hours later, 300 miles east, at a different rest area outside Amarillo. Same make, same dark color, same single silhouette, engine off, parked at an angle that put my trailer directly in his line of sight. I told myself it was a coincidence. Truckers see the same four-wheelers over and over on long stretches of interstate. That's just how traffic flow works. But I hadn't seen this car on the road between those 2 stops. Only parked, waiting, both times like it had gotten there ahead of me and simply stopped to let me catch up. I pulled up satellite images in my head, tried to work out how a car traveling the same interstate could arrive somewhere ahead of me without ever passing me. It's possible. Different speeds, different stops, nothing supernatural about it. But possible isn't the same as likely. Not twice in one night. Not with the car parked in a position that only made sense if he already knew exactly which direction my trailer would be facing. I changed my route slightly after that. Took a different combination of exits, stopped at a truck stop instead of a rest area for my next break, told myself I was being paranoid and did it anyway. The car was in the Flying J lot when I pulled in. Different pump lane, same silhouette, same stillness. Not filling up, not going inside, just parked, facing the fuel islands, facing me specifically as I fueled. I stood there running the numbers on that. There is no reasonable way a car leaves before you, takes a different route, and still beats you to your next unscheduled stop. Unless someone already knew where you were planning to stop, or unless someone was tracking you in a way that had nothing to do with guessing. I've hauled a few high-value flatbed loads before, and once, years ago, dispatch mentioned in passing that some loads get flagged as easier cargo theft targets than others. I never asked what that meant exactly. I wish I had. I wish I'd asked who flags a load like that, and who else might see the flag besides the people meant to protect it. Because standing at that fuel island, I couldn't shake the feeling that somebody had known which truck I was driving before I ever left the yard. I didn't go inside the Flying J. I got back in my cab, called my dispatcher from the fuel island, and told her what I was seeing. She told me to stay put, stay visible, keep the doors locked, and she'd get someone from the company's security line to call me back. While I waited, the car's headlights came on. Not to leave. just on, aimed at my driver's side window, holding still for almost 30 seconds before shutting off again. That was the only aggressive thing that happened the entire encounter. Headlights on, then off. A message, maybe, that whoever was inside wanted me to know they could see me clearly and wanted me to sit there wondering what came next. Security called back and told me to move to a well-lit area near the store entrance and wait for a patrol unit that happened to be nearby. By the time it arrived 20 minutes later, the car was gone. No plate on file that matched what I'd given them, because I only had a partial, 3 letters, no full number, my hands too unsteady with the phone flashlight to get a clean shot before the lot went dark on that side. I finished the delivery 2 days later, without incident. Nobody touched the load, as far as anyone could tell. But I never saw that car again either, and I've never stopped wondering whether that was the plan working exactly as intended or the plan falling apart because I noticed too soon. I don't take that stretch of 40 anymore unless I have to. And I never park in an empty rest area at night without scanning every vehicle in the lot first, checking if any of them are facing the wrong direction, checking if any of them are already, somehow, waiting for me, headlights off, engine cold, like they've been sitting there longer than they should have any reason to, parked at an angle that only makes sense if they knew exactly where I'd be standing.